Hi, and welcome to episode 5 of Ads from the Week, where I share vintage newspaper ads clipped from either the San Francisco Examiner or the Oakland Tribune that are concurrent with the past work week. This one because there are 2 travel days in the mix. It only goes from Monday, July 13th through Wednesday, July 15th. So let's start our journey, shall we? First, on July 13th, 1978, and Irwin Allen's production of The Swarm starts tomorrow. Now, The Swarm is one of the crown jewels of my childhood cinematic experiences for a variety of reasons. The pre-release hype and ballyhoo for this movie was impressive, and I mean, there was a lot of killer bee fear-mongering that was going on in the late 70s, and there was a concern that this movie would actually cause it to reach a dangerous fever pitch, which is kind of like silly in retrospect, and I did have the movie tie-in edition of the source novel written by Arthur Herzog, and would studiously examine each and every black and white photo, and looking forward and hoping that this movie would do for bees what Jaws had done for sharks. Again, the pre-release hype and ballyhoo was impressive. There were billboards and banners and just all kinds of stuff around. I mean, Warner Brothers just threw everything, including the kitchen sink, to get butts into seats for this movie. And when the movie opened, well, the rancid stench of flop sweat and fresh turkey manure filled empty theaters across the nation. This movie is ineptly made and poorly written. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those movies that you can literally find something wrong in every scene. There is just great lines of dialogue and stuff that's like flabbergasting that I can't believe some of the actors were able, or performers were able to say with a straight face. You got the famous, bees, bees, millions of bees. There's a swarm of killer bees is heading this way. Or my favorite, I attribute whoever my enemy, whoever they may be, with equal intelligence. I'm like, wait, what? Yes, Richard Widmark saying to Michael Caine that he expects the bees to come break the other bees free because I find out that they have holding him hostage. I cannot believe that an adult wrote that line, and that I had to, when yeah, it is but I did see it opening weekend, and for my birthday, and I don't think my parents ever forgave me for that. This is one of 2 films I think my dad went to his grave angry at having to sit through. Yeah, The Swarm is a bombastic mess of a movie that was woefully out of touch with the era in which it was made and set. The meandering plot or subplot, it just wanders and drifts all over the place, bumping and nudging at each other at a pace that makes Glacial seem like it's a speed run. Allen evidently, I mean, the movie, it was rumored to have cost about 12 to 13 mil, which is a lot of money in 1978. But I think I think most of that budget went to wrangling the all-star cast. And despite everybody in this movie having done some solid to great work elsewhere, here they give performances that range from wooden to just operatically over the top. I think that Michael Caine and Richard Widmark who spend a majority of their characters spend a majority of the film arguing with each other and shouting at each other. I think they had to have made a bet as to who would chew the most scenery and at any given scene. And boy, do the splinters fly when they go at each other. It's a beauty to watch and to behold. Um, I will say that one of the many current joys this film has given me is the utter gleeful delight that overcomes me whenever I take the Warner Brothers studio tour down in Burbank. I've taken it twice. And at both times, I was briefly able to see and walk around what is the raw material for what was Marysville, Texas, which was actually created on the Burbank backlot. And oh, it's an intoxicating joy that I will never get old. And even talking about it, I want to take another tour to see if I can try to get more pictures of the backlot locations for that were used in the Swarm. Yeah, the interesting thing about when I look at it is because the backlot's been around for close to 100 years probably, and that town square, which most people might recognize from like the Gilmore Girls or something of that nature. Um, it took me 2 visits to figure out that the blocks were all set up and decorated differently. It wasn't until I was like trying to sync up that I realized that the scene where the guy's flopping around in slow motion on the Marysville street just before he jumps into the window of the Harris Cafe, well, the long shot is from a block up, whereas the medium shot is from a block down. Because there was like 2 blocks and they just redressed or changed the dressing around, just kind of like how the medical clinic also became the Marysville School and all of this. But yeah, I'm going to take the Warner Brothers studio tour again just so I can go through the main town or square again and see if I can get some more pictures of that backlot. It was interesting going by one where it had been dressed because it was currently being, at the time in 2020, being used for Young Sheldon. So there was a lot of Young Sheldon stuff. But I recognized that there's a scene in the movie when Paul comes tearing in to the town in his parents' car after the picnic scene, that I was like, oh, that's that intersection. That's it. The buildings look almost identical, and figuring out where the Harris Cafe was and everything is just it's a dumb movie, but it's got a great Jerry Goldsmith score, and it's just a movie that I have an embarrassing amount of love for. So now I want to watch it again, and I want to go to Burbank and go to the Warner Brothers backlot tour. So I might see if I can plan a road trip for that sometime within the next year, or sometime between now and 2037. All right, let's jump back 56 years to July 13th, 1922. And here we have an ad for the Brisbane Editorial Review. You can order it, use this ad to order it, or you could just pick it up at your local newsstand, whichever you prefer. This appears or seems to be the first ever collection of columns that were or editorials or opinion pieces that were written by the acknowledged master editorial writer and thinker in the newspaper profession, whatever that means. Evidently, his potential readership had reached the 15 millions because his column was carried not only in Hearst papers, but in a wide variety of other newspapers. Also, each of the editorials or opinion pieces are illustrated as well, so there's pictures to look at and admire. But yeah, never heard of Brisbane, but yeah, something worth looking into if that floats your boat. Now we're going to shoot forward 74 years. Woo! To July 14th, 1996. And Peter Jackson's The Frighteners starts on Friday. Now this is one of those movies that I would have loved to have gone and seen on the big screen because I was and remain a big fan of Peter Jackson. I'd known him from Bad Taste and Meet the Feebles and Heavenly Creatures. And this was one of his first Hollywood movie before he got Lord of the Rings. But when it came out, we had a 2-year-old, and where we were living, it was just a luxury that was out of reach. When I finally was able to catch up to the film when it hit home video, I think I saw it on DVD. I did think at the time that it felt a bit unfocused and a little all over the place. The organizing of threads of the story and characters seemed a little to have been gotten tangled in with the distraction of the really massive amount of special effects that are in the film. But it was still entertaining, and I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting to learn that Jackson was aiming for a PG-13 rating, but during post-production it became quite clear that the MPAA was going to be intractable about the film's rating. It was getting an R, no matter the amount of cuts or alterations Jackson made. So Jackson amped up the gore for one particular character death, so that the R rating felt earned to the viewer, rather than like, why is this rated R? This should have been PG-13. I don't understand. There's nothing in it. But this is a movie that I do need to revisit at some point, sooner rather than later, I hope. But yeah. Now we're going to shoot back 76 years to July 14th, 1920. And Eleanor H. Porter's novel Mary Marie will commence a serialization in the upcoming Sunday edition of the Oakland Tribune. This book appears to be comprised of journal entries written by a teenage girl dealing with or detailing how she must navigate the rocky emotional terrain that has been created by her parents' divorce. Her name is Mary Marie Anderson, but her mother insists on calling her Mary, while her father insists on calling her Marie. So she kind of feels like she has two distinct personalities when she's visiting her mother. She's Mary, and when she is with her father, she's called Marie. She kind of like starts, I hesitate to say code switching, but changing her behavioral patterns to accommodate each of the parents during her visitations, and thus causing Mary Marie to struggle to figure out who she really is. And the book was considered to be groundbreaking when it was first released, and it does sound like it would be an interesting read that is worth tracking down. I believe it is also at Project Gutenberg, for those that might wish to tackle the book before I get around to it sometime between now and 2036. All right, now we're going to shoot forward 55 years to July 15th, 1975. And local socialite and columnist and radio hostess Pat Montadon is going to be signing her book, The Intruders, at the Bayfair Mall Macy's on Wednesday, July 16th from 12:30 to 1:30. This is the story, or at least it is her interpretation of the events that happened at a party she held that had a paranormal bent to it. There was a professional tarot card reader there that got irritated or pissed off at her royally, and as he's leaving, he hurls a curse at both her and the house she is living in, saying, "You'll never be at peace here. You'll never, this place, blah blah blah." And shortly thereafter, or soon thereafter, I think that's just the same thing, Montadon's life begins to unravel. I did find an online review that summarized this basically as Montadon began to feel unsafe and uneasy in her apartment. She heard noises, felt dread, felt a presence. Mysterious fires would break out. Her apartment was robbed, and criminals seemed to be lurking about at all times. So, now, was it real? Or was it just a figment of an overactive imagination and nervous paranoia brought upon the very real, troubled and troubling times that were occurring in the city of San Francisco in the late 60s and early 70s? I mean, this was the time of the Zodiac Killer, the Manson murders, and it's just a lot of stuff going on. Patty Hearst kidnapping. I have no idea, but finding this ad buried in the pages of the Oakland Tribune did arouse my curiosity. And I thought it was an interesting look. I was like, wow, this is like a foreshadowing or a foreshock or an early example of what would become known as the true haunting genre that would arise following the larger commercial and cultural success of Jay Anson's book, The Amityville Horror, which would be published 2 years later in 1977. But I might track this book down and give it a look. I don't know. It's on my, kind of sort of maybe wish list. And finally, we're going to zip back for a very short stop at July 15th, 1922. So that would be like 53 years in the past. And here we have another ad for the Literary Digest. This one saying that they're polling readers and I guess potential readers about whether or not they support prohibition and a federal bonus, or I think they should say, or a federal bonus. That was the payout, I guess, to veterans of the late war. I guess people who had fought in World War I. Or the early returns on this polling would be revealed in the new issue. And there would be another bevy of articles and editorials about numerous other subjects of interest to a reader in the year 1922. And this is where I end this week. As I said at the start, we're traveling. So thank you for joining me on this very brief journey down memory lane in this here Wayback Machine of mine. I hope you enjoyed it. And, until next time, why don't we all try and have some fun, okay? Bye. Enough is never enough.